Good evening, my friends. This is Paul, and tonight I'll be reviewing for you
Mario Kart World for the Switch 2. And now, if you'll excuse me, I'm off to explore this huge world.
Let's start off this review by answering the question that pretty much all of you are thinking right now, and that's, is this game worth $80? Even more expensive than Tears of the Kingdom? Heck no! But I do think that this is the kind of game that is so big and so interconnected and has so much to do, relatively speaking, that I do think a simple rental just isn't good enough unless Mario Kart really isn't your thing. The reason why it's called Mario Kart World is twofold. The team didn't want it to feel too iterative of previous titles. Mario Kart 8 was very much a prettier version of Mario Kart 7 if you boil it down to the simplest mechanics. But Mario Kart World not only has the interconnectedness that gives it the world, aka everything is on a huge map, and you'll see various courses connected to each other in pretty much all of the modes, but also it feels like just about everything has been tweaked from the ground up to feel like this is the next proper evolution of the series, as opposed to just being another Mario Kart. There are so many little tweaks and changes that I'm pretty sure I won't be able to name all of them here, especially because I imagine a lot of them are those subconscious changes where you don't realize they're different until you go back and play Mario Kart 8 and realize, dang, this game is primitive. But I think one thing that'll stand out the most is that the thrill of movement seems to be much more apparent here. You're encouraged to be constantly jumping around a lot. And by that I mean not only do you have the typical drifts that have been around since the beginning, but you can also charge up a drift while you're going forward. And you can either use that to jump forward or jump to the side, which can be used to either ride on walls for a bit or ride on railings, and sometimes chaining them into both. And this leads for some incredible momentum, and it also is a nice risk-reward factor, because it took me forever to nail the timing of getting on rails and walls, and even after clearing all of the cups on 150cc, I still have trouble with it. And I feel like that's the mark of a good system that Nintendo games seem to be really good at, is take something that conceptually is easy to figure out, but actually mastering it takes some work. To sort of compensate for this, Nintendo added another system that is easy to learn, hard to master, and that's the rewind feature. Now, I personally have never used this because I raced exclusively on 100cc, and those computer players are brutal. You make the slightest mistake and you're pretty much screwed. You can rewind time, but only for yourself. It doesn't rewind the race, and it certainly doesn't rewind the other players. But if you just happened to miss a jump, you can give it another try. Just don't give it too much of another try, or you'll find yourself lagging behind. There are quite a few new items that you can use, which, is par for the course. Some of them are returning from Mario Kart Tour, but with a couple of tweaks, like the question mark block, which instead of shooting items ahead of you, it gives you a bunch of coins and also sprinkles some behind you. There's the hammer, which now causes a bunch of hammers to linger on the road for a bit to create a bit of a hazard. And then other items like the fire flower and the ice flower have had their physics adjusted, and the special effects have been adjusted so that they're a lot more cartoony. This is where I have a bit of mixed feelings, because Mario Kart 8 was one of the most gorgeous games Nintendo has ever made. On a technical level, I think it even outshines a few Switch and Switch 2 games. But here's where Mario Kart World is a bit mixed. On one hand, it's by far the most graphically impressive game in the series. There's so much in the distance. The lighting and the overall design of the courses is sublime. And whenever you get a chance to glide, you can really see a bunch of hills and horizons. And all of the effects are just absolutely breathtaking. But it's juxtaposed by the characters and the items having more of a cartoony feel altogether, so that it feels like the art styles don't really mesh. When you have a hyper-detailed jungle environment, but then the Spiny Shell will say like, BOOM! In big cartoony letters with a cel-shaded explosion. I don't know. Personally, it makes Mario Kart 8 feel like it aged a bit better, just because that game was consistent in its art style even when it was pulling from other franchises, and this game can't even get something as basic as the items right. The characters also seem to suffer from that as well. On one hand, they seem a lot more expressive, or they'll like point to other racers before a race starts. They'll have more detailed cheering animations, but then their faces seem to be redesigned so that they appear more cartoonish, like their eyes are bigger and their expressions are more goofy. And I honestly feel like it kind of makes the game feel like it's even more targeted to kids than I think was originally intended. And I believe that that's an unfortunate side effect of Super Mario Bros. Wonder and the Mario movie being such a success, as just about everyone has had some kind of redesign to look radically different, especially Donkey Kong. Speaking of which, we also have quite the different voice cast this time around. Giselle Fernandez has replaced Deanna Mustard, Charles Martinet has been replaced by Kevin Afghani, Samantha Kelly found out she was replaced the day this game came out, so we don't know who replaced her, but now Peach and the Toads have a different voice. But voices don't really matter too much in Mario Kart World, but I will say that it's refreshing that there are some actual new voice lines in here, as Mario Kart Tour was mainly just reusing lines from 8, which that was pretty much reusing lines from 7, and not a whole lot of originality. So it is nice to see familiar characters like Rosalina actually have a few additional phrases and giggles to make this, again, feel more like an evolution. And a lot of other stuff just really add up to make this feel like there's so much thought given into the tiniest things, such as when you use a mushroom. The characters will actually put the mushroom up to their mouths because, you have to eat it. It doesn't just poof and it's gone like it does in the previous Mario Kart games. And the impact of the mushroom feels more tangible, like you feel like you just activated a huge speed boost. It doesn't quite have the cartoony, zippery feel. Zippery, what kind of word is that? Like, it feels like there's actual momentum being given by the mushroom. It may take a bit of getting used to, but I personally feel like it makes you have a better sense of speed. I also like how the customization was streamlined a bit. Mario Kart 7 introduced the idea of selecting your wheels, kart, and glider, and Mario Kart 8 and Mario Kart Tour followed along with that to varying degrees of success. And Mario Kart World says, okay, that's way too confusing of a system to try to do that many combinations. So let's bring it back to how Mario Kart DS and Mario Kart Wii did, where you have different vehicles and those vehicles will have preset statistics. As far as the character roster goes, I feel like they learned a few lessons from Mario Kart Tour and applied that here, and the results are mixed. You have quite a lot of characters, including nearly every popular enemy in the Mario series. Like, have you ever wanted to race as a crab? Or a pair of Bitty Buddy? You can name it and you pretty much have it. I think the only major exception is that you won't really get to play as anyone from the Mario spin-offs, so like, no Paper Mario, no Mario RPG, mainly just the mainline Mario games, but nearly everyone is here. And most of the main characters also have alternate costumes. You may be a bit disappointed to hear that each costume is a separate character on the character select screen, which can make it kind of laborious actually switching through the characters. I think it would have been nicer if maybe they had like a toggle, kind of like how the Yoshis did in Mario Kart 8, where you selected the Yoshi icon and then a window would show up giving you the color options, especially as some characters don't have that many costumes. Pauline only has 2 costumes, so why take up 2 entire slots? Was it to make the game feel like it had more characters so that people wouldn't make the complaint that they did with Mario Kart 8, that its initial roster was too small? Additionally, as of now, there are no crossover characters, so no Link and no Inklings. Now, the courses have seen quite a huge improvement, and that's, as mentioned earlier, they all have an interconnected feel that you could feasibly drive from one course to the next, and even when you're in modes where they're not technically connected, you can feel that they are, because there will be roadblocks that would otherwise lead to another area, or the red arrows that return from the booster course pass that'll say, not this lap, you gotta find another runaround. And I like how the modes in general promote a sense of connectedness by their very existence. So let's talk about them one by one. The Grand Prix mode is very similar to Grand Prix of the past. You go through 4 different courses, but after you're done with the course, rather than just going to a loading screen and being plopped into another random course that has no cohesion whatsoever, after you finish the final lap, you'll sit through a short loading screen, but then the course will open up a new path, and then you'll drive along that path to the next course. And honestly, the connectedness is so amazing that sometimes I'm like, okay, when is it actually at the course? Only to realize I was in the new course the whole time. It really does feel like instead of there being a bunch of little courses, that it's all just one big world that the developers decided to segment to avoid getting the players mixed up. I do think it's a bit unfortunate that the loading screen still has to exist, but thankfully it only takes a couple of seconds and then you're right back into the fray. And it doesn't seem like the difficulty options matter that much, as when I looked online, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of unlockables that are locked behind difficulty. So if you're the type that needs to do 50cc, which is the easiest difficulty but also makes your kart slower, then you should still be able to unlock the secret, which I won't say, but I'm pretty sure most of you know what it is anyway. So. Then we have Knockout Tour, which has you going through 6 courses at a time. And this is closer to what I want a Grand Prix to be, because instead of there being any loading screens, you just drive through all 6 of them in a row, and at each lap's end, there will be a barrier that says that you have to be in a certain position to pass it. And if you're lower than that position, you're simply eliminated. End of story. So I think they're trying to capitalize on the Battle Royale genre. I personally wouldn't have picked up on that because I've played other Battle Royale games and this does seem very different. But I do think it's a good way to keep the action moving so that you're not just stopping and waiting for a loading screen and waiting for everything to pick up. You're just going. And it's great. And what I especially love, and this kind of goes for the whole game as well, that the transitions have well over 200 music tracks from throughout Mario history. Nearly all of them are played by real instruments. They vary in quality because, as the name World implies, they want to use a bunch of different styles to indicate that different parts of the world have different music. So depending on what you're looking for, these could either be the definitive versions of your favorite tunes or absolutely butchering the songs for the sake of it feeling like it could feasibly be playing on a radio during a road trip. And that goes for Versus mode too. That's pretty much the same as always with your usual choose the computer's difficulty, choose how many races, how hectic are the items. The custom items rule from Mario Kart 8 didn't make a return, so that's a bit confusing. But what is cool about Versus mode is that you can choose to either play one course at a time in traditional Mario Kart Factor, or you can select the starting course and then choose what course you'll play after that, and then there will be a transition, and there are I think at least 6 different transitions per course that really opens up the track selection quite a lot. I wish that this was explained a little bit better, but otherwise it's a great way to encourage replay value when technically I think Mario Kart 8 might have more tracks, but in comparison it feels so much smaller. Like the real estate of the courses, even when they're not trying to connect to each other, feels like you just have so much more room and so many different routes you can take. It really feels like space is a theme that the team wanted to capitalize on. Now admittedly there are a lot more straightaways in the previous games, but thankfully very few of them are just bland empty space. There's usually something going on to make it interesting, such as traffic or boost panels that you have to strategically place yourself to get more speed, or jump boosts that if you time them right you get a speed boost. And of course knowing when to charge up a jump boost is also part of the strategy, so you're hardly ever just sitting still and waiting for the car to go by. Now one mode that's a bit of a downer in my opinion is Battle mode. It feels like they took the feedback of the original Mario Kart 8, which that game had battle courses where they just plopped you into regular courses and had you duke it out. This is sort of like that, but the courses feel slightly redesigned so that they can be more closed off, but at the same time they're still ginormous. And I feel like the reason that was done is because universally The game is trying to go for 24 racers at a time to make the races way more chaotic. Honestly, if you're really good at this game, the 24 racers probably won't make much of a difference to you, but in battle mode, it makes it so that the map feels very, very cluttered. It's also unfortunate that there's only 2 battle modes, Balloon Battle and Coin Runners, and you can't choose anything other than a timed match, and you can't set the time. But to make up for it, they did bring back Big Donut from Mario Kart 64 being way bigger and way more graphically impressive than it used to be. But I do feel like the battle mode is the mode that I want to spend the least time in. Speaking of disappointments, the biggest part of the game that I was looking forward to was also the part that probably left me the most mixed emotions. I think overall battle mode was my least favorite mode, but free roam mode was the biggest disappointment. Because this is the mode where you just get to drive around wherever you want. You can fast travel to every major course, and sometimes you can even fast travel to different characters if you want to be even more precise. And there's a lot of things that you can collect while you're in the open world to make it feel like a good standalone mode. There are blue switches that trigger missions, and usually these missions are pretty short, and they severely lack variety. Pretty much all of them are either get these blue coins or drive through rings, but better than Superman 64 at the very least. And these missions can be pretty tough. Thankfully, you can retry relatively quickly, but there's a loading screen after every retry, and it adds up if you're as bad at missions as I am. Thank goodness for editing so that I can cut out all of my mistakes. There's peach medallions and question mark panels that you can drive over, but it isn't immediately obvious what all of this does. Like, you'll just get text that says you completed a mission, but there won't be some kind of checklist that says complete this many missions to get something. Now, there is technically achievements in this game, but they're just stickers that you use to customize your vehicles, and honestly, I don't think most people are going to even be looking at the stickers. So it feels like there's not really a point to anything. Like, sure, there's the secret, but you don't need to play free roam mode to get it. In fact, free roam mode was one of the biggest reasons why I felt conflicted as to what time I should put out this review. Because I kept thinking, what is the point of this? Like, sure, there's things to collect and things to do, but what is it building towards? There's no story. There's no bosses. You're just driving for the sake of driving and just collecting things for the sake of collecting, and I personally do not think stickers are a good reward for exploration. If I had it my way, I would make it so that by exploring you could discover new courses, and that would be how you would unlock them in the main mode. That way you'd have an incentive to explore, because then you'd have more to do in other modes. Or have boss battles. Even if it didn't have too much of a story, at least have some kind of end goal. Like, yes, you have the little missions, which are cool, but maybe have something that makes exploration by itself to be the reward. That's what I love about games like Breath of the Wild, is it's so easy to get distracted, because you see something in the distance and you say, that's going to benefit me. And then on your way there, you'll get more resources, and it's a constant journey of feeling like you're improving and preparing yourself to face Ganon, which is the ultimate end goal. But there is no end goal in free roam mode, you just drive. And honestly, it feels a lot clunkier to drive around in free roam mode than it does in playing games like Breath of the Wild. Either that or I just picked a bad car combination, but it felt like I would constantly have to back up and recenter myself, especially in those collecting the blue coin missions. And the map is honestly pretty unhelpful. Like, it's pretty photorealistic. Like, it contains a relatively detailed view of your immediate surroundings, but the zoomed out map just shows you where all the courses are. But there's not really an easy way to zoom out and look at, say, where are all the peach medallions that you've already collected, where are all the question mark panels. If you hover over a course, it'll say how many panels you have in that area. And there's a little checklist on the side that says how many peach medallions, question mark panels, and missions that you have, but it won't tell you how many in each area, and it won't give you an overall objective. Maybe I'm just the type of guy who's a stick in the mud because I'm not the biggest fan of games like Animal Crossing, where the structure is so open-ended, but I feel like I wanted a reason to play in free roam mode, and I got none of that. All of the good stuff that I unlocked came from the Grand Prix and the Knockout Tour, which I was hoping that there would be something more to the game than that, but no. As soon as you beat all the courses in the game, you get the credits. And I did that before I did free roam mode, and now I regret it. I do think one cool thing about free roam mode that probably won't get enough people talking about it is that you get quite a variety of tunes to listen to. But here's the catch. You can also listen to those in the menu while you're waiting for the courses to load. But here's the other catch. There's no in-game soundtrack player at present. Mario Kart 8 had a soundtrack player. Why doesn't this game? It would be so cool if you could just listen to all of these arrangements whenever you want. Or heck, if you want to simulate the road trip aspect, since it's called Mario Kart World, why not have a radio that you can select tunes from, or make a playlist? That would at least give you an incentive to drive, like Final Fantasy 15 did, where you could select the songs to play on that game's long road trips. As it is, free roam is fun, and it was more fun when I captured footage than it was when I was playing by myself, but I still felt like it was an epic waste of time, and there wasn't enough incentive for me to want to explore the whole map, so I just said, hey, I got the credits, I beat every course on 150cc in both Grand Prix and in Knockout Tour mode, and there wasn't an overall objective in free roam mode, so I just gave up after I had my fill. And that's why I ultimately think it's not worth $80. The free roam mode simply exists so that they could say we made an open world Mario Kart, and that's it. Yes, the courses are interconnected, and that's cool, but I don't think that justifies $80. Like, maybe if you had, say, an upper world and an underworld, like Tears of the Kingdom did, then maybe I could see it being $80. But as it is, it's just another very, very good Mario Kart that has some amazing course design and some really fun controls, a good movement system, and a lot of cool tweaks to make it feel really good. But ultimately, a lack of direction makes it not have good staying power in the free roam mode. Definitely a game worthy of picking up, but try to get it less than $80. So with that, thank you very much for watching. Please let me know in the comments what you think of the video, and if you're going to pick this game up, and what are some of your memories with Mario Kart. Again, I like intelligent discussion, so let's try to have a dialogue in the comments section. So I hope y'all have a wonderful day, and until the next time, remember to keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. Bye!